Coming up on this episode of Meanwhile, it's our Daredevil Born Again Episode 4 recap. Matt smacks Frank down as the Punisher prods his breaking point. Muse paints the town red, literally. While Fisk suffers, we built this city with a caged X as his encore. Is this savage showdown a knockout or just a whole bunch of Fiddle Faddle? Stay right there because we're about to get into all of it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Meanwhile back on the podcast. To note, my camera is not working right now, so there is no video feed from me during this episode. It's okay. If anybody wants to see what I look like, I'm happy to send them a photo, but no nudes, okay? I'm not sending you nudes. That's not happening.
Man.
Yeah, right?
Click here for OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. OnlyFans for podcasters. That's the way to go. But yeah, guys, listen, thank you for joining us. We're very excited to talk about this episode of Daredevil. We will be back on again after this episode. We've got just a sort of scrum episode that we're going to do, a new format that we're kind of playing with, but we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. But let's not waste any time. This is the episode 4 recap for Daredevil, breakdown for episode 4 of Daredevil. And there's quite a lot to talk about. The Punisher's back. We finally get to see Muse. He's draining the blood out of people, probably using it for his art. That's my theory. And I think things are going to get pretty fucking weird. Also, the apartment that I was making fun of in the first episode has clearly taken a nod from the comics, and it has like this little secret room on the roof where Daredevil keeps his shit, and there's probably like some training gear up there and stuff, which is kind of dope. And that last scene with him in the Billy Club, that was fun to watch. I really enjoyed that. But listen, let's get into it. So, initial thoughts of the episode. Let's start with my man Rich.
So before we start, as promised, Frank, dead poo.
That's great.
Dead poo.
That's great.
Laugh if you will, but it's my
I'm
favorite
laughing.
shirt.
I'm laughing. I just want to make sure that we don't derail the episode with making fun of your shirt right now. So
didn't want to break my promise to you. So, okay. So my first impressions, love the episode. Again, not a whole lot of Daredevil until the very end. But we're going to see him in the next episode. I'm sure of it. A lot of great dialogues in this one. The dialogue between him and I forgot what that guy's name that was stealing the Fiddle Faddle, but great dialogue there. And of course, Punisher between him and Frank.
Bradford. Last name is Bradford, I think.
Yeah. Just a great dialogue talking about kind of the system and how it can really screw with you, the legal system if you can't afford a good attorney, right? And then the dialogue between Frank and Matt, just so good. I got a lot to say about that. And then, the slow drip of Muse. I mean, pun intended, drip. The slow drip of Muse, great to see him and hope to see a lot more of them in the next, what do we got? 5 more episodes left. So, because we're in 9 episodes, not a lot left. So we got to see what Muse can do.
Yep, absolutely. Brad, your initial thoughts, pal.
Oh, Rich, I guess we need to go. All right, sorry, that's my bad poo impression. Okay, I did not like it. I loved it. This episode was so freaking good.
Okay.
It was everything that I wanted. And we didn't get to see the Punisher skull on Frank, but we will. We didn't get to see Matt back in the Daredevil outfit, but like Rich is saying, it's coming. I thought this was a brilliant episode. It's this season feels like it's just progressing. Words are tough today, in the right direction for me. I liked Muse when we show him the little bit that we're gonna get, and just kind of like, hey, I'm here, I'm doing things. You had, like Muse is the author of the murals that we're seeing. You have the BB thing, the BB going around, and the kind of Kingpin takedown, you going after the misinformation type of thing. They're making very, very many smart decisions with all the chess pieces that are on the board. They're setting it up perfectly. from when we did our episode about our expectations of Daredevil, I think this is like one of the things that I wanted to see the most. I wanted to see some courtroom drama with Matt, and we're getting that. We're getting his lawyer side and his fight between like, yeah, I got to be the fancy lawyer so I can be Daredevil, and now more than ever he wants to be Daredevil, and that's, you know, he wants to be born again as Daredevil. So, yeah, man, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched it twice. It was awesome both times. Man, I can't think of anything bad I want to say about it right now.
Okay. I overall think it was a good episode. There's a couple of things that I'm going to be kind of stickler on. That thing with the Bradford guy and the Fiddle Faddle. By the way, how much did Fiddle Faddle pay for their name to be in that episode?
Man, that's
a lot.
Great.
I want to see those
sponsorship.
numbers.
Great.
I want to see those numbers. How many times did they say Fiddle Faddle, and how many times did they say the flavor? Like, that is definitely product positioning, because they wouldn't be able to use the name if somebody didn't pay for it.
Man, TV shows are expensive to make these days. You gotta get that corporate product placement in there.
It's true. It's true. I totally agree with you there. But I didn't. Maybe him meeting this character is going in a direction, kind of like maybe he's Turk, like in this new Born Again style of Daredevil. Maybe he plays some sort of role, like he has some material value to Matt within the context of the story or to the story itself. But I just didn't see the point of some of the choices that they made in this episode, that being one of them. And also, we built this city twice. Those kids singing "We Built This City" was without a doubt one of the most annoying things I've ever had to sit through.
We were all
why did
Wilson.
they make like
we were all
like,
Wilson
why did
Fisk
they let
at that
them
moment.
Sorry, yeah, exactly. Like, why did they let them do the entire song? Like, sure, sing a little bit of it and then cut to the next scene. Like, why do we have to sit there and watch them sing that entire song? That didn't really make a lot of sense for me.
It was to show,
kind of distracted.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
It was to show the pain of Wilson Fisk having to do things the right way. Like he hates making these appearances. He hates all the red tape, especially when that scene where you're looking at the model, that little model of Red Hook, of what he wants to do, and then describing of all the bureaucracy he has to go through. Yep. So having that scene last as long as it did was to give us the same discomfort as Wilson Fisk was having at that moment. And then especially having to hear it again on Latvia Heritage Day in a different language. He's like, this episode was all about progression. It was the progression of Matt putting the Daredevil suit back on because the system is failing in so many ways. And he's trying to turn a corner and trust in this system because as Daredevil, he failed. He failed because Foggy died. And he said, if I can't fix things as Daredevil, then I'm going to go fix things as Matt Murdock, the lawyer. And as we progress through this episode, that first conversation with Bradford about the Fiddle Faddle was talking about how the system fails. And then finally, that other conversation with the Punisher, with Frank, was saying, you're not doing enough. You got to put the suit back on. I don't have time for your hero crap. I'm going to get things done. And then at the very end, we see him training again with the Billy Clubs. He's opening that back up. It's almost like John Wick cracking the concrete floor and pulling out his old identity, not wanting to put that back on, but is having to because of the way the system has constantly failed so far in this season. So the We Built This City, as cringy as it was, I've never identified more with Wilson Fisk than in that moment, because I hated watching it for the same reasons he hated watching it. I could not stand it, especially when he gets up and goes, "Oh, we're going to sing another number." No. I'm good. Thank you.
That's some pretty apt analysis, Rich. I think you deserve some applause for that one. That was
well done.
Seriously, I'm not being sarcastic, because as you were putting those pieces together, I started to kind of see something else there too. They were mirroring Fisk and Daredevil's, or Fisk and Matt's experiences.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's something that they've been doing consistently. And that's why the poster art has them split in half, with one of them looking into the light and one of them looking into that dark red sea. That's interesting because, so I get what you're saying now. So Fisk wants to just get shit done. He wants to do what he wants to do with that plan that he has for the, for the waterfront. And he has to go through the bullshit bureaucracy of going to these events and sitting and having people sing fucking stupid songs at him when he just wants to go out and get the job done. Like, he's just not used to this. He's not used to the pomp and circumstance of this. When he's a gangster, it was just like, you either get shit done or you don't get it done.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. That's really good analysis, Rich. Thank you. That helps me appreciate it a little bit more. I don't know why I didn't see the mirroring. I think I'm kind of reactionary with Marvel. I need to kind of get back into a place where I start to trust them again. Cause every time I see them fuck something up, I don't know. I just can't hold back from it. I'm just getting I'm getting tired of being disappointed. You got
to live in the moment, Frank. Just watch the show for itself, outside of all the political machinations that's going around Marvel. Just watch the show and enjoy it for what it is.
I hear you, but you got to understand, I look at these things from the point of view as a producer and a writer too, right? So I'm always looking for craft. And if I don't see top end craft, then that's what really kind of gets to me, because I want to see somebody who could do a better job, do that job, if that person's not doing the job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it through a bunch of different lenses, but I think that this is what makes this show, our show, so unique, is that we've got a multitude of perspectives. Where you're just a fan, I'm kind of involved in the industry, and I've kind of been in marketing for 15 years, and I understand messaging and all this other shit and branding and all this other stuff. And Brad works in the fucking theater industry. So we've got like a lot of really cool perspectives to kind of look at this from. This is great. So I appreciate that. Awesome. Okay. So that's an interesting point. So so let me give you my thoughts beyond that on this episode. The dialogue scenes were fantastic. Even the one with what's his name again? The Fiddle Faddle guy? Bradford. The one like even that scene was fantastic. I like how they really dug into the system and really kind of got granular with it. They got really detailed about it. And they really gave the audience an opportunity to walk in the shoes of somebody who's in that position. The system is definitely set up to continue to put people in a position to fail. It's not set up to extricate them from the situations that they're in. It's almost set up to sort of double down on where they're already at. So that's interesting. A lot of countries do it differently, but the United States and Canada definitely don't do it that way. So that's interesting to see. And also, I really love the scene with Fisk and his wife and Dr. Glenn. I thought that was fantastic. I thought that was a great scene. The performances across the board were amazing in this episode. Like, that's what really stood out to me in this episode. The one thing I couldn't square was the bullet casing that Matt found in the storm drain. And the reason that is because that bullet casing would have never ended up in that storm drain. It's not heavy enough to roll that far, and it's not heavy enough to roll over the terrain that bottle was. Like, you hear the bottle, and the bottle's like jumping as it's moving, right? So which means that any of the grooves in that pavement are far too high for that bullet casing to make it over of, and it doesn't weigh anything. So there's nothing to really make it get there. I get it, for the script, because of the script. Let's just get it done.
Maybe it was a really steep hill.
Sorry?
I said maybe it was a really steep hill.
It was a steep hill, but I'm saying that the casing doesn't weigh enough for it to get down there. It just doesn't. The casing just doesn't weigh enough, unfortunately. But I thought it was clever. I thought that the bottle trick that Matt used to sort of get a sense of where that direction, like where something rolling downhill would go, that was very clever. I thought that was super clever, and I really enjoyed that.
The dolly zoom was really good too.
Yeah. The cinematography on these episodes has been fantastic. I want the coloring of the Netflix series, but I'm getting used to it. So, it's fine. But yeah, it's been great. So I really enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed it more now that Rich has sort of explained kind of what I was missing. So thank you, Rich. That's awesome. But yeah, let's get a little bit more granular about some of the things. So Punisher's back. He is still working, doing his thing. We don't know who he's going after. We don't know who his target is. How is he still operating? That's what I want to know. Because he's a vigilante and he uses guns. So I'm just kind of curious how he's still kind of out there and doing his thing. That would be interesting to kind of look at. And yeah, Matt's in an interesting place in this episode. He's seeing everything, he chose a direction after Foggy died that he thought made more sense than what he was doing. And now he's finding out that the system is just as broken as the street, as his direction beforehand. So he's kind of looking at himself and saying, like, I really don't have any good options here. They're kind of all bad options. So how do I do this? And he's also kind of teetering on the precipice of breaking his own moral code at some point. Do you guys get that feeling too?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, so go ahead, Brad.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think that's the whole purpose of Born Again, is that he's got to reevaluate where he was and what he needs to do. And I think that is one of the things he's looking at. Okay, yeah, I may have failed and I'm going to have to bring it back, but how do I succeed in the merge of the two? Like, how do I honor Foggy and how do I be, badass street level vigilante superhero? So is he going to be the same as he was before? No, because he's born again. But is he going to be more awesome? Yeah, because that's the name of the show and they want to make money.
Yeah,
Rich, thoughts?
Yeah, the dialogue between Frank and Matt was so pivotal because, and this is why I said when we talked about the first episode, this is why Foggy had to die for this series. His death mattered, and this scene paid that off. Because in the time frame that passed in the year, Matt never grieved Foggy. He always felt that Foggy's death, he has felt that Foggy's death was his fault. That's why he hung up the cowl. But this splash of cold water from Frank made him grieve Foggy. He hasn't said his name but twice in the entire 4 episodes that we've seen. Couldn't even name him. So he was feeling responsible for his death. And then Frank was like, look, the system failed because Bullseye's breathing the same air as you. He may have life, but does Foggy have life? And so that was what was needed for Frank to snap, or for Matt to snap out of it and go, Hell's Kitchen, New York needs Daredevil, because I'm trying to live this life that is worthy of Foggy, but I'm denying a piece of myself while doing it. And all these things I'm seeing, like with White Tiger, the system failed because he was exonerated for killing those cops, only for the cops to turn around and kill him. And then with Bradford, with his situation, feeling like he had to steal Fiddle Faddle because, he needed something to eat, and the system's going to give him, even if it was a week in jail, which is much more than how much that Fiddle Faddle would have cost. On top of that, the cops were eating it as they were arresting him. I mean, it's just corruption all around, and also proves that anyone is capable of anything given the appropriate circumstances and triggers. So his circumstance was he was hungry and he needed something to eat. So the system failed him in both of those senses. And then now, as a lawyer, Matt's like, I'm not doing enough. So Frank had to bring him back to reality and say, what are you doing? What are you doing to make things better? And then Frank, as far as, I don't know if he has been operating as Punisher, because he's got that beard. He's looking rough. So, I mean, he always looked rough, but he's looking unshaven. He's looking like he's been in that basement for a minute. So I don't know if he has been operating other than just researching whatever's on his conspiracy wall behind him. But yeah, such a pivotal turning point and for Matt in this. in this series, to realize now that he can't just be Matt the lawyer. He's got to be both. He's got to be Matt the lawyer to combat things on the inside, but also to what White Tiger said, to do what's right when the system fails.
Yeah. Good point.
Man, that slap.
Excellent point.
That slap, man.
Yeah.
That slap was my favorite part of the entire episode. When he's like, you freaking slapped Frank and was like,
sorry.
I'm sorry. And he's like, what the fuck for, man? Like, this is the most honest you've been since you've been here. Yeah, that gave me a little bit of ocular perspiration. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, but the line choices were so good and so well thought out too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dialogue choices and the performances from Bernthal was just so powerful. Honestly, I think Bernthal's one of the best actors on the planet right now. Like he's so good. He's so good. And I don't know if you guys know this, but he studied in Russia. That's where he studied acting.
I actually just heard that today. Actually.
Yeah, he started acting in Russia. But yeah, when he says did Foggy get life? Like that was just holy shit. You know, Bullseye's walking around, what's Bullseye doing? Going down to the mess. Like just, it was so good. So good. And the emotion that Charlie Cox found in that moment to really make it as visceral for the audience as it was for him, or, as it was for, like, we felt Foggy's loss again in that moment.
Yep.
And yeah, no, like your point about Foggy had to die to get to this highly valuable moment in the story. That makes sense to me now. Like Foggy's death feels a lot less pointless based on the scene that we got where Matt is finally grieving it and feeling it, and you can see it land on him. And yeah, like up till now, Matt in Born Again has been more or less been in denial of kind of everything. He's got this new apartment, he's got this new job, and he thinks everything's just going to be just fine. But what he's discovering is that no matter where he goes, or no matter what he does, the system isn't going to fix itself. The street's not going to fix itself. Crime isn't going to fix itself. Murderers aren't going to fix themselves. They're not just going to stop being murderers. Like there's got to be another measure in place. I think he's finally getting to a place where he's saying to himself, I need to be both people. Like he just needs to lead this dual life. And Muse is just going to make that even more prevalent once Muse comes on the scene and they start figuring out what he's doing, because the gruesomeness of what he's doing is going to transcend everything. Bullseye is a murderer. Like he just shoots and kills people with knives and whatever he can get his hands on. Muse is a monster. It's a whole different fucking story. He's a serial killer, right? So things are going to get very different there for sure. What else in that? Like, is there anything else in that scene that we should kind of unpack?
I think we're good. I think we hit the Frank and Matt, just the way that he was simply calling him Red. Just the second he saw him, like, Red, what's up?
I love when he calls him Red. Yeah. Like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm actually thinking about naming my dog Red now when I get a dog. I think I'm just going to name him Red. Yeah. But he won't be red. But yeah. I kind of almost want Frank to see Daredevil in the yellow outfit now.
And make fun of him and just be like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, go put something else on.
Totally. And he should have my rationale behind it. You can't call yourself a devil and wear yellow. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The red makes sense. That would be funny. Frank's reaction to finding out that somebody was using his shit, though, using his flag, was waving his flag, was not what I expected.
Yeah, he kind of brushed it off.
He totally brushed it off.
Yeah.
I expected him to fucking rage out and be like, somebody's killing people in my name. Somebody's killing people with my colors. Like, I was expecting him to wanting to get highly involved, but he's totally just being dismissive about why.
He's just focused on whatever's on that wall. He doesn't care about anything else going on. He in the military. He's from the military, so he's a mission-minded person. So he's. I didn't see what was on that back wall. It's all kind of blurry, but he's planning something. We don't know what it is. Maybe it's going to be in that spin-off series that that they just signed up on.
Oh, right.
On Marvel. So we'll see.
Could be. But no, like, I think that's out of character for him, even if he is on a mission. I think somebody using his colors to kill people, I think that would be like just a deal breaker for him. Like, that would just be like automatic top of my murder list. Like, whoever you are, I'm going to find you. I'm going to fucking put a bullet in your brain, and this is going to be over very, very quickly. That's what I was expecting, and we didn't get that. So I kind of feel like it's a little bit out of character for him. Would anybody else agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I was expecting more of a rage out moment, and was surprised that he didn't. Yeah. So yeah, I was surprised that he didn't. He was just kind of like,
yeah.
On.
And the trailer, we should talk about this. The trailer was a total misdirect. It wasn't a fight between Punisher and Matt. It was just Punisher, somebody sneaking into his lair and him reacting to it. But kudos on the misleading edit on the trailer, because it looked like he was going after Matt with an axe.
Yep.
So, but he wasn't. He didn't know who it was. He kind of looked out of it too a little bit, eh? Like, he's definitely in a really dark place right now. Frank is.
Yeah, that's why I was saying I don't think he's been operating as Punisher for a while. He's been planning something, but yeah, because he looked disheveled. He looked a little out of it. He didn't look quite ready for prime time to jump in the streets and team up with Daredevil to clean up. So
yeah,
and talking about his family as well. Yeah,
yeah, that was yeah, that part where he's like, "Do you hear his voice?" It's like, "Do you hear his voice?" I was like, "Oh shit, whoa, this is gonna get dark real fucking quick."
Yep.
He's like, I hear my boy's voice all the time. Get him, daddy. Get him all.
Oh, such a good actor. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He's amazing, scene, dude.
And that delivery of that particular line was so gut wrenching. It made me think of, his past Punisher series on Netflix and kind of replayed that in my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, he's been living with that guilt that Matt has only experienced for a short time. Punisher has still kept in him as the fire that burns within him and the rage that keeps him going. And Matt's just getting a taste of it now.
Just reminding all of us who the Punisher is, and that there is a reason why he is the way that he is. He's not just a stone cold killer. He is a stone cold killer, but like he's got his own reasons to be the
Absolutely. Did anybody see any of Shane's idiosyncrasies from Walking Dead in this performance? I saw a couple things, like the head nods, the little head shakes he does, like as he's talking. That's very Shane from Walking Dead. Very Shane from Walking Dead. And Shane and Frank are almost interchangeable as far as like their code. Like Shane, well, actually no. The Punisher wouldn't leave anybody to die. He would definitely save some people in the zombie apocalypse. Shane was kind of a piece of shit, but yeah, that's true. Were you guys Walking Dead fans?
Yes. It's been a while. I'm not as big of a fan of the new series that they keep on coming out with. I couldn't get into the ones who lived. I couldn't really get into any of them really. So
yeah, I kind of stopped around season 9. I think it got a little long in the tooth for me. I did watch Fear the Walking Dead. That was pretty good. But then the spinoffs are just like nonstop. I can't keep up. But they're all in my Netflix queue. I do want to watch them. But I still haven't finished. I'm trying to, like Star Wars, I'm trying to watch them in chronological order now that there's so many spinoffs, because Fear the Walking Dead and Walking Dead kind of interchange. They're in the same timeline. One kind of catches up with the other. So I wanted to watch them in chronological order. So I'm in season 9 of Walking Dead, and then I got to jump back to Fear the Walking Dead and then finish it out.
Right.
I'm a completist. What can I tell you?
Gotcha. Did you guys hear that Bernthal, when he first saw the first version of the script, he was of the mind that he wasn't going to participate in the project?
I did read that.
When he saw the first version.
Yeah.
Apparently it was just a little, like, he felt like it was way too out of character for Frank. Like this, the old version, the Deck the Halls guys version of the show. That's the other thing. You bring in the Deck the Halls guy for a show that the Punisher is going to be in. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, as soon as you put the Punisher into a show, you got to find somebody that's going to honor that character, because he's so, if you mischaracterize that character, your show's dead. Like, it's dead in the water. Like, can you imagine like turning him into like having him joking around about anything?
No, absolutely not.
He doesn't have a fucking sense of humor.
No, he jokes on accident.
Yeah. If he says anything, it's just kind of like sort of witty exchange. It's not like funny shit, Yeah. Interesting. Let's talk about, the marriage counseling scene with Dr. Glenn. So Fisk, or Mrs. Fisk, Vanessa, had an affair with an artist. And as she was talking about it, I gotta say, Wilson looked pretty controlled. I was like, as she was talking about it, I was like, okay, he's gonna rage out real soon. We're gonna get some Fisk rage. But there was no Fisk rage. There was none. And Rich, I think, the last episode we talked about Fisk. I had said that he's not the man he used to be, not only to himself, but in the eyes of Vanessa as well. Like, there's kind of something missing. And I kind of felt like there was something missing in this version of Fisk too. And the big reveal that he has Adam locked up in a cage as he's, in his place where he goes to eat dinner. What the hell was that all about, by the way? Like, that was kind of weird. Like, I just come here to eat dinner and look at this Adam guy. I don't know. That was kind of odd. The fact that he has this guy locked up tells me that we're going to get to a point where the crossing of the line is going to be when he murders Adam. Like, Adam's dying. Like, that's my sense of things. What did you guys think about this scene, and what are your thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah, so like my thought is I took it as Adam in the cage was his own way of looking at a piece of art that's hanging on the wall. It's the Kingpin's version of, of a piece of art. And yeah, he's going to die and he's going to go way off and we're going to get Kingpin. Maybe he'll be the name Kingpin again by the end of the series or the end of season 1. I hope so. But man, yeah, it was man, I even forgot who Adam was for a second. I'm like, wait, is that the guy that he was having an affair with? And because didn't he just say that he didn't know? I think, but he did, because obviously he got him. And how long has he had him?
At least a year.
At least a year. Yeah, at least a year.
So what I liked about the marriage counseling scene, they're sitting closer now. They're in the table where they're at home. They're a little bit closer now. So there's some progression in the saving of their marriage. And I like what the counselor was saying as far as, are you here to save a marriage or dissolve one? And think about that as we go through these counseling sessions. So I thought that was really good. And as far as him not raging out, I think he will never hurt Vanessa, right? And he
no, I agree with that.
Yeah, he's always lived for Vanessa's approval. So to hear Vanessa's so disapproving of him, I think made him kind of get him all up in his feels about himself. Like he felt bad that him traipsing off to Oklahoma to try to win back Echo that shot him in the face, which was kind of cool. You saw a little scar on his eye sitting on the couch.
Right.
The callback to Echo, and for whatever reason, he found Echo, trying to win back Echo, was more important than staying with Vanessa. There was betrayal on both sides. So Vanessa felt betrayed by Wilson because he went off and did his thing in Hawkeye and in the Echo series. And then Fisk felt betrayed because Vanessa cheated on him. So there's betrayals on both sides, and forgiveness was the theme of the counseling session, and really kind of one of the other themes of this particular episode. Matt having to forgive himself for what happened to Foggy, and Fisk and Vanessa having to forgive each other for their betrayal. And can their marriage be saved? What's it going to take? Will Wilson be able to live up to Vanessa's expectations again? Was throughout that whole marriage counseling scene, and that dungeon that Adam was in was pretty cool. And if there was any question on whether this show connected to the Netflix series, was answered when he walked past Rabbit in a Snowstorm with the bloodstain on it, because that was in the Netflix series, and the bloodstain came from Wilson Fisk because Matt was beating him to a pulp in that episode, and he didn't clean it off the painting. So definite connections now, if there wasn't any doubt. And I thought it was a really cool walk by scene, and then Adam being there. I don't know why he's keeping Adam around. I wonder if it's just kind of a reminder to himself of his failures of Vanessa. And then if their marriage reconciles, yeah, he'll probably kill him.
Yeah, I definitely think I see that coming. So before I get Brad's thoughts on that scene, this is the storyline that I think is the hardest for me to accept. I feel like this is the most out of character thing for any of the characters in this series. I don't feel like Vanessa would abandon or take issue with Wilson doing what he's going to do, especially if he's still in that world, if he's still in the criminal underworld. She's been she's always been super supportive of everything. You know, she's never really raised an issue about anything. Even when he was like, you know, supposed to be in jail, but was like living in a hotel, like secretly, that wasn't an issue. So it just feels like because the script demands it, we needed to kind of separate them a bit to kind of get this story told. That's really the only part of the series I'm having trouble with. And then the other part that I'm having trouble with is Wilson being so passive about what's happening in his relationship. That feels very out of character for me too. But granted, this new role as mayor, maybe he feels like he needs to be that way. Like he needs to forget his old ways and try and find a new version of himself where it's more suited towards the office and it's more suited towards the type of man that he wants to be. But do you guys get what I'm saying? Do you feel like this is a little bit out of character for both these characters or no?
You want to go, Rich? Or
I mean, I can, sure. We have to remember what happened to Echo, right? Echo reached into his mind to pull the violence out of him, telling him that you don't have to solve your problems with violence anymore because of what happened in your childhood, right? So she used her power of healing to try to heal his mind. Now, granted, he kind of pulled out of it, you know, there towards the end and didn't get completely out of it. So it made him rethink his choices as Fisk / Kingpin, which launched him into this.
I didn't see Echo. I'm gonna have to go watch that now. Thanks.
At least I would say not the last episode, because the relationship between Fisk and Echo builds through the whole thing. It's really, Echo is really good. I think it got some unfair flack, but I thought it was a really good show, especially with Fisk and the dynamic between Fisk and Echo and what their relationship was in that show that made him want to go back and get her. So she changed him in his mind to try to be less violent. So I don't see it as out of character. I just see it as a natural progression from Echo. Now, because I don't think it's going to stick because Kingpin is Kingpin. I don't think it's going to stick by the end. I think something's going to happen, probably with Adam. He's going to break bad, but he's trying to be a different Fisk, because when Echo did that to him, he was on his plane at the end credit scene of Echo, and he sees a news story about who's going to stand up for New York, and then Fisk is running for mayor. So, no, I don't think it's out of character. I think it's just a natural progression of where his character was from the Netflix series through Hawkeye, through Echo, through now. I mean, it's a whole arc.
Okay, I would probably feel the same if I'd seen Echo too, if that's actually what happened. So yeah, I definitely have to watch that. Okay, well, I retract my statement then until I watch Echo, and I'll come back and I'll let you know how I feel about that. Brad, how did you feel about that scene?
Yeah, I agree with Rich a lot too. I think a lot of it is because of his public profile now as well. He knows that, again, he's a strategist, so he knows that he has to hold back right now and until the things are falling apart where he can't put them back together, because he's playing the role of the politician right now,
Right.
the puppet master. And so I think that's what I was taking by it. Just that, yeah, he's got the rage, just not willing to use it because all the eyes are him, and he doesn't even know who he can trust. For point at Michael Gandolfini is, like, he came clean about leaving some information to people that are trying to tarnish his name, so he really doesn't know who he can trust.
I mean, yeah, if anybody's head was going to get cracked through a car door, it was going to be Michael Gandolfini at that moment in the old Kingpin. But because loyalty means a lot to Kingpin, right? It means a lot to Fisk.
It's not just that. Let me jump in for a second. The scene, the shot where they have him standing like right across from each other, and they're like, he has his hand on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking at himself in the mirror. Like, that kid could be the young Wilson Fisk if you really fucking think about it. If you look at the way that they both look, like, they could be he could be the young Wilson Fisk. And I think what's happening is that Fisk is seeing a lot of himself in that particular character. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it's Tom Burke or something. Daniel Blake. So I think in Daniel Blake, Fisk sees a lot of himself. And that's what's really driving his motivations for not literally ripping that kid apart. I think that's a big part of it. But you were saying that, yeah, he definitely puts a lot of value in loyalty, and he definitely puts a lot of value in people who are there for him. So I think that there's merit to that too.
I love the look on Sheila's face too, as in between them being like nose to nose, right? And Sheila's like, "What is happening right now?" Like, that was, and the way they went in focus and out of focus on Sheila's face was just really great cinematography. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh gosh, good. This kid is dying."
Yeah. And I'm gonna be with him.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty good. No, for sure. And the other thing, which I found interesting, was when he said, "If you ever do that, what was it?
If you do it again, it's the last thing you'll ever do.
Last thing you ever do." Now, did he mean that in a professional sense, or did he literally mean what I thought he meant, which is, "I will kill you"?
Shades of Kingpin. That's the thing. It could be either one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I got the sense that he literally meant, "I will kill you." Like, we're just kind of starting to see some things percolating to the surface now.
Yep. We're seeing the breaks. We're seeing the breaks for him to become the old Kingpin, just like Matt becoming back to being Daredevil. Yeah. Every episode is that mirror.
Yep. No, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about Muse. We finally got here. That scene was pretty freaky. That character looks extremely comic accurate, which is great. And he's drawing blood out of the guy. Well, no, wait. We got to talk about the fact that they started the episode with him walking down the train track with this guy on his back. And then by the end of the episode, he's got this guy in whatever lair he's got, and he's draining blood out of him. So I don't know if that was a linear timeline or what, but was a long walk with somebody on your back. If that was a linear fucking timeline,
Was it the same person?
I think so. It looked like it.
I couldn't tell.
It looked like the same person. But yeah, he's literally draining blood out of that guy. And my theory is he's using it to do his art.
Yeah, I mean, I love the character of Muse. I didn't know a lot about Muse. So I had to do some Googling. It's basically like if Banksy was a serial killer, essentially, is what he is. And his power set, he's an Inhuman. So his power set kind of cancels out Daredevil's power set. Like he can make himself basically invisible to Daredevil's, sonar heightened senses thing. So I don't know if Muse has any fighting skills, but if this guy has any fighting skills, it's gonna be a good fight scene between him and Daredevil. And like I said at the beginning, I mean, they're slow dripping Muse, and what that tells me is it's going to be brutal by the end of it, because they're just teasing him out and just giving you a little bit of what his brutality, and draining the blood out of a guy while he's still alive, and then using that blood to paint his artwork. And in the comics, Muse is, he's an equal opportunity killer. He kills heroes, he kills villains, he kills civilians, he kills anybody. He's a monster, like you're saying, killer. Frank. Yeah, so
he's a serial killer.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how hard they lean into the TVMA of it, in terms of the violence, in regards to Muse. So yeah, the slow drip has me it's like Jaws when Jaws first came out, right? You didn't see the shark, you saw the fins, and then the one moment where the jaws come up, and it's like, we need a bigger boat. That's when you got the full on of the shark. So when we see Muse in all of his glory, is going to be really, really interesting.
Cool. Well, before we wrap it up, let's get some predictions for next episode. Brad, start with you.
I think we're going to go. I think this is going to be a heavier episode about Muse. I think we're going to get some more Muse in there. I think it's going to be just a catch up to where we are there. I think we're going to see Daredevil trying to go through the next couple days, thinking that what happened with Frank didn't affect him the way that it did. And he's just going to keep on moving back to that Daredevil. He's going to stop being so close to the girlfriend. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking her name? The girlfriend.
Which one? Oh, Rebecca Glenn?
Rebecca, thank you. I'm like, wow. I could not think of Rebecca's name. And I think he's going to make a phone call to Karen Page. I think, or something he's going to bring back that connection a little bit. I think in the same thing, Kingpin or Wilson Fisk is going to get tired, or not tired, but he's trying to be the mayor, but he's also, the more he tries to be the mayor, the more he's going to be falling back into who the Kingpin is. So that's where I'm going.
I can see that. I can see him going after his old contacts, the other heads of the other organized crime organizations that are making his progress slower than he wants. I think that's definitely something that's going to happen. And it's clear that the other guy, Buck Cashman, doesn't really have any problem with that. I think he's going to be very okay with that. I think he's a new Wesley. In the mix here for sure. So I definitely see something like that happen. Rich, what's your what are your predictions?
I think, like with Brad, I think we're going to see, I wouldn't be surprised if the next episode was a flashback episode of how Muse became Muse. Because you see his full face, you see how brutal he is. Now we have to answer the question, how did we get here? Right. So I wouldn't be surprised if it feels like a bottle episode of just Muse. His past is growing up, what made him become the way he is, and then it leads up to that final scene that we just saw. So my prediction is we probably won't see Matt. We probably won't see Fisk. It'll be all Muse.
Okay.
Do you think he's going to be an Inhuman?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that's way too much to try to explain, right? Yeah. I think he's just gonna, but I don't think he's just gonna be a straight up serial killer. He's got to do something to challenge Matt. I mean, Matt could clean the floor with him in a hand to hand fight if he wasn't an Inhuman. So they're going to have to simplify his power set in a way to make it easily digestible for the common fan, and to find out who this. Most people know who Bullseye was, but not a whole lot of people are going to know about Muse, because he's a recent addition to the Daredevil Rogues Gallery.
True. Yeah, he is a recent addition to the canon for sure.
2018.
Yeah, I definitely see us diving more into Muse. I think that's why they ended on that final shot. That was his introduction. Now they want to, expand on it probably. And I think that we're going to see Matt kind of struggle with the road that he's kind of heading down. He's finally kind of opened up the jar of the pain that he's been dealing with Foggy. And I think that's going to send him into some pretty dark places. And a lot of casual Daredevil fans do not know this, but Matt in the comics has a very extensive history of mental illness. Very extensive. Multiple personality disorder, schizophrenia, the whole nine. Like, he is not the most well-balanced mentally, in the Marvel universe. He's definitely got some issues. So, but yeah, I think that's kind of where we're going to go with this thing. But anyways, guys, listen, thank you for joining us. We really enjoyed having you. We really enjoyed breaking down this episode. We're looking forward to the next one. If you have any comments or questions, anything you want us to answer for you in the next episode, drop us a message on Twitter at meanwhile_pod, or you can go by, check out our SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/meanwhile_pod. I believe we still have an account there, so you can drop something there. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Till next time, I'm Frank McGuire.
I'm the Emperor of Awesome, Bradley Butin.
And Rich Herrera.
Peace.